Hey, you guys, and welcome back. We are on day 5 of this project, and a day that I'm sure many of you have been excited for. It's Freestyle Day. So, before, we've been working on geometry, we've been working on symmetry, but today you get to let your creativity run wild. We do not have to focus on geometry or symmetry at all for these shapes. We get to do freestyle. We get to pick whatever it is that you're into, whatever your heart desires here. So of course, our first task is always going to be to get that 8x8 inch piece of paper ready to go. We need to make sure our paper matches the size of our board, because otherwise, if you're drawing it too big, the nails aren't going to all fit on it. So that would be sad. You'll notice that I am using my grid paper. You don't have to, but you certainly can if gridded paper helps you with drawing this design. Feel free. You've got some. If not, you can scroll back into those slides, and it is linked in one of the first slides. So feel free to print more if you need more, or once again, you can just use a regular blank piece of paper too. Totally up to you. But either way, we do have to make sure it's 8x8 because it has to fit on our board. Okay. So the next thing, if we look at our steps here, the next thing that we need to do is decide on a shape or design. So we can see some examples here. Now, just because these are the examples I've given you does not mean that you are limited to doing one of these things, right? Like, it's freestyle day. You do what you want. School appropriate. School appropriate always. But you could do a car. Maybe you're really into cars. Maybe you're really into ballet and you want to do like some point ballet shoes. That would be pretty, wouldn't it? Oh, I like that. So really let your creativity run wild with this one. And think about too, like this is something that very well could and should, in my opinion, be hung up in your home. Right? So it could be in your bedroom, or maybe if you're making a design for a certain room in your home, it could be a really nice gift for somebody too. So think about those things as you're coming up with your design. But whenever you're ready, you're going to head to that really cool site. I think I've told you guys about it before. It like lets you search stuff for free. It's called the Google. Remember that? So go ahead and open up your Google, and I really love bicycles. I love bicycling. So I decided to do a bicycle. Now, if I just type in bicycle, I will probably get lots of pictures that look like this, which is fine. Like a bicycle is a simple enough shape that is okay. But let me show you maybe something a little more complex. So, lion. Let's just say I'm interested in lions. Wow. Those are cool pictures. How do we turn that into string art, though? That'd be pretty complicated, right? So here's a little tip for me while using the Google. I like to type in the words coloring book, lion, or you could type in illustration or drawing of lion. So those things all work, because now watch, I'll get something that's much more simplistic. Now, some of these are really, really detailed, but some of them are quite, they're a little bit easier. Like, oh, okay, I would be able to make that more so into nail art, or maybe like this one. That one's kind of cool too. So typing in words like coloring book, illustration, drawing of, and then the word can be really helpful for that. But like I said, I've decided to do a bicycle. In fact, I have pinned the bicycle in here. There is my picture. This is what I'm using. So I am going to draw that using the dots onto my piece of paper, whether you're using grid paper or plain paper. You could also choose to just actually draw it out and then plot those points with the dots as like after it's lightly drawn in there with the outlines, okay? But today we're really focusing just on like where are each of those nail marks going to go. Next class, we're going to be talking more so on like, okay, how are we going to connect the dots? When we're doing freestyle, it seems like, oh, you can just do whatever, so it's easier. au contraire. It's actually the opposite. It's a little bit more difficult. Like the more freedom you get, there's a lot more choices to make. And because it could literally be any shape, there's so many more options for what you could do for connecting the strings. So it is actually a little more difficult than what we've been doing the last couple of class periods, which is why I saved this part for last, right? We can kind of build up to the skill level. So you can see on mine here, I did decide to use the grid paper, and I am plotting out the point. So here is that kind of like triangular middle section of the bike. I don't have the part that goes down quite yet. Here is connecting down to the wheel. I've started doing the wheel as well. Remembering too that we want to stick between 1 and 2 squares apart. And another thing to consider too, like especially looking at this bike. Okay, so if we look at that center triangle part, do you guys see what I'm talking about? Like that middle part where it's triangular up off to the side. I wouldn't want to just draw one line all the way around, because then I'd have to connect my string in the middle, and that's actually negative space. That's not positive space. So if you look what I'm doing here, I'm making sure that I'm putting nail marks on both sides so that tomorrow I will be able to string it like more like this and make the positive space that way, rather than if it was a singular line having to go through that space there, which is supposed to be negative space if we look at the drawing. So anyway, once again, your goal between now and next class is to finish one pattern, freestyle pattern. That being said, if you get done with one today and you're like, didn't look exactly the way I wanted it to, draw another one. Tomorrow we're gonna play connect the dots with our freestyle, and that is it. We at the end of next class, that is our last day to do our brainstorming and our different like potential candidates for our final piece. So you want to really make sure that before next class that you've got like some strong images, some strong contenders for our final project for our nail and string art, because we're getting close, guys. We're going to be putting the hammer to the nail real soon. All right, so get that pattern drawn. Tomorrow we'll talk about connecting those dots. Don't forget, you'll need a straight edge along with your other supplies tomorrow, and we will see you then.